Hi, I'm Tanvi and this is Mad Batter by Tanvi. And today we're going to make some yummy, fluffy cinnamon rolls. They're kind of a clone of the cinnamon because, of course, the cinnamons are so yummy, but they are definitely fluffier and you can control the sugar content. So, funny story, one day I was walking in the mall with my husband and suddenly I noticed that he's disappeared. Now, where is he? He smelled some cinnamons and that smell took him away from me. So I decided that day that I am going to copy the cinnamon and make sure I get it right, and not just right, I get it better. And today I'm going to share all my secrets with you. So here we have the ingredients that we need to make our cinnamon. First we have 1/4 cup of sugar. We have half a teaspoon of salt. We have 34 grams of butter, 1 egg. We have 1/4 teaspoons of dry instant yeast. We have half a cup of milk, which we're going to warm up in the microwave. And we have 1 1/4 cup of bread flour. Now, bread flour is basically a flour which has a higher content of gluten in it. Now, if you don't have bread flour available to you, what you can do is use normal flour. For every cup of flour that you add, remove 1.5 teaspoons of flour and add 1.5 teaspoons of gluten instead. Now, once all your ingredients are ready, we're going to start mixing. So first what we're going to do is we're going to pour in our bread flour. Our salt. And our sugar. We're also going to crack our egg open. Next we're going to add the butter. This has to be completely molten. So what we're going to do next is we're going to melt the butter and we're going to warm the milk. Once the butter and milk are warmed is when we're going to pop them in. So now we're going to pour in our warm milk. And our warm melted butter. Last, of course, our yeast. Once this is done, we're going to mix it in our KitchenAid. If you don't have a KitchenAid at home, feel free to mix this with your hands. What you're going to get is a slightly wet, sticky dough, proof for about an hour so that the gluten develops. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in an oiled bowl and leave it to rest. The olive oil will help the gluten to develop a little bit more and become stronger so that we can roll out our dough easily to make our cinnamon rolls. This soft dough will ensure that your cinnamons are absolutely fluffy and wonderful and light. The trick is to pour a little bit of oil in your hands before touching the dough, just slightly. Dipping it in the oil to make sure the oil encompasses the entire dough. We're going to let the dough rest for at least an hour because we want it to proof. So why do we need a perfect proof? We need a perfect proof because we want the gluten to develop really well so that we can fill this dough, and when it rises it does not collapse. The second thing we want is we want the amylase and the protease and all the other enzymes in the dough to naturally develop that really nice nutty flavor that we love in the dough. So we're going to let that rest for a while. We've got it right here covered in a wet cloth. We're going to leave this here for a while. So while we're waiting, let's get started on our filling and our frosting. So for the filling, we have here a half cup of brown sugar. We have 38 grams of butter, which is softened. And all we have to do is mix it all together. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. consistency. And with that, our filling is ready. For the icing, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sieve half and 1/4 cup of icing sugar. We're going to add a pinch of salt, 1/4 teaspoons of vanilla essence. Add some butter. This is 28 grams of butter. And the last thing that we need to add is some cream cheese. We're going to add 43 grams of cream cheese. And now we're going to blend it all with a hand mixer. Whisk until an icing-like consistency is formed. Of course, if you want it to be slightly more liquid, you can add a little bit of milk to it. And there, the icing is ready. Once your dough is ready, it's going to look something like this. It's going to have doubled in size and you're going to be able to see air bubbles in it. We're going to roll out the dough on a lightly flat surface. So we're going to take some flour, dust our surface with flour, and then look how nicely aerated the dough is. This is what is going to ensure a nice and fluffy roll. I'm going to take some flour in my hands just to make sure that the dough doesn't stick. As I just roll it around a little. We don't want to touch it too much because we don't want all the air to run out of it. I'm just going to touch it enough to remove some of the stickiness so that we are able to manage the dough. Once that is done, on a nicely flat surface, I'm going to roll our dough. We want to roll it into a nice rectangle, keeping one side smaller than the other so that we can get an even roll. Since it is flour, it will shrink back a little as we roll. So we're going to try and roll it a little bigger than we need so that once we lift it off, it will shrink and come back to the size, the thickness that we require. Once the dough is ready, we're going to take our filling that we have made earlier, which is basically cinnamon, butter, and brown sugar. We're going to just spread it on the dough. So it's okay to cover the edges on this smaller sides, but the longer sides we're going to leave because those are the sides that we will wrap. So we don't want to cover them too much, otherwise it will be hard to wrap. So roll it from the top to the bottom, lightly. Now if your dough is sticking, the thing that you can do is you can get a palette knife in flour and just slightly run it under your dough, just so that there is some flour under it, so that it's easier to roll it. Is ready. Now to cut. Now there are two ways of doing it. A lot of people like to use a thread. So I'm going to take a serrated knife, and the trick is to go from side to side instead of top to bottom. That way you can ensure that your dough will not stick to the bottom. Cut and ready, we'll take an oiled tray. So what I have here is a square tray, and we're going to place them in it. It is well oiled so as to ensure the cinnamon rolls don't stick. And we're ready. After this, we're going to let this proof for half an hour before we bake. After half an hour of proofing, your cinnamon rolls should look like this. And now it's time to pop them in the oven at 200 degrees. We're going to gently brush them with a little bit of milk before we pop them into the oven. How you make the perfect cinnamon roll. They're so delicious and perfect for your breakfast or tea or a snack. They're so special. My family loved them, and I'm sure your family is going to too. If you like this video, do subscribe, send us love, send us likes, and click the bell icon.